Hi, hope everybody is doing great. I have a heavy heart again. Oh my God, don't come to me for good news. I'm Mrs. like doom and gloom. And I think that God gave me the name Eliza, which means happiness, just to counterbalance my reality. So I'm going to dedicate today's class to my aunt, my mother's sister, who just passed away a couple of days ago. Her name is Yehudit Bat Moshe. What a hard life. There were 9 children during World War II. My aunt laughed her way through every difficulty in life. I never heard such a cute, engages laugh. You called her, you were upset, you forgot why you called, and you forgot that you were upset. They were the only children of the war who actually were a part of the French resistance, the Maquis. My grandmother was the only female combat fighter in the Maquis. And I think they're doing a book, although I'm going to circumvent them and I'm going to get there first. Maybe even turn it into a movie. My grandmother, my grandfather with 9 children. Everybody survived the war intact. Being in the underground, the children were in the underground. And my aunt, who passed away, you would think she would be bitter and pointing the finger at God and everyone else. And she lost her only child a few years before she herself passed on. And she went through life smiling. So I have to tap into the Eliza in me, the happiness in me, and I have to work with that. And I try. So this week's Parsha is dedicated to her. This week's Parsha, Ki Tavo. When the Jews are going to go to Israel, Moses is giving them all these instructions. But what's heavy-hearted about this week's Parsha is there's 98 curses if the Jews don't do what they're supposed to do. And I know many of us in our lives, bad things happen in our business, in our personal lives, or something happens bad, and right away, I know they cursed me. They saw me that day. I gained 24 pounds, and they saw me that day, and my business went bad, and I shouldn't have told them because I lost, God forbid, a child. So many bad things happened because this one, that one, and the other one. We give so much power to everyone. And this week's parasha, we have 98 curses. Not from your neighbor, your brother-in-law, or 12 other people who you think are jealous and don't wish you well. They come from God himself. If you do not listen to the words that I have to tell you today, all these things are going to happen to you. Among them is, don't put a stumbling block before the blind. Don't curse at the deaf. And you would think, okay, what is he? He doesn't even know. He's deaf. But the thing is that God hears everything, and he is the only audience. And I say it over and over again. And if you really want to live an enlightened state of being, you have to know who your audience is. Ein od milvado. There is none other but him. So he can't hear, but your cursing doesn't pass. He can't see, so I can do and make all these funny faces. Doesn't pass. Because there is an eye that watches, and there's an ear that hears, and there's a being that knows. And that is Hashem. What's the last line of this parasha? If I remember it correctly, and if not, then it was a few sentences earlier. But I think it's the last line, and that is, do everything that I tell you so that you'll have success in what you do. So what's the opposite of that? You don't listen to what I tell you. Don't blame your neighbor, and don't blame this one. They give me an evil eye in them, and all these things because it's easier. There's no accountability on you. They did it. I'm in the worst case scenario. I'm in the pits. My life sucks because of them. I'm fat because of her. Everything is somebody else's fault. But this week's parasha, 98 curses, God himself cursing me, you, if we don't get it right, puts the accountability on us. I have to get it right for life to go good for me, to be successful in all that I do. A few years ago, I heard a story by a rabbi that I heard him for the first time. The story came in and out. It stayed in my consciousness, but I didn't care. And then I'm reading this wonderful book. I'm always reading. I'm reading 10 books at a time. That's a problem too, because I'm not focused. But this book, Say Thank You and See Miracles by Rabbi Arush. He has a whole series of books. Great. book, and I'm going to just tell you the story, and that's the end of the story today. Okay, rich guy in Israel. He's not nice. He does no one a favor. Not religious. Doesn't look to God. It's all him because he's fabulous. And he is about to buy, I think, the 17th floor in the Azrieli, the big builder, designer, Azrieli for architecture, Azrieli building in Tel Aviv, the 17th floor. He's about to buy the whole thing. A fortune, huge amount of money. Except just between the interaction and his pocket is a new deal that comes between them. Someone calls from Romania. They have a brilliant investment for him. They give him all the, of course, the profit-bearing potential in this. So instead of putting the big money in this building in Israel, he's investing in Romania. It turns out that the land zoning for where he invested his money, well, it's not what he hoped it would be. So he starts to lose money. Losing here, losing there. And you know, when you're rich, it's collateral. If you're smart, you know how to back it all up. But when one falls, it's the domino effect. So all his investments start tanking. His liquid funds tanking, no longer there, because this Romanian Ganef thief messed him into a deal that just was not profitable. And he owes money to the government. They're suing him for tax evasion, and he's desperate. So what does this mean son of a gun want to do who never helped anybody? He wants to go to his friends, ask for money. Rich friends, he's, rich. Birds of a feather stick together. Nobody wanted to help him. He has no choice. He goes to a loan shark. So he goes. He has no choice. They're going to put him in jail. Where is this place located? The irony is that it is on the 17th floor of the Azrieli building in Tel Aviv to get the money. So he gets the money. He's leaving with cash, a loan shark, nothing's on the books. He leaves with the money he needs to pay the government doesn't want to end up in jail. But before he leaves, he's lamenting the fact that he didn't invest in this building on that floor, what he was supposed to buy. And he wants to explore a little. He has the money on him. He goes up to the roof. Israel, the Mediterranean sun. He goes on to the roof to look, to explore. As he gets on the roof, the door behind him smashes closed. He's shaking the door. He's calling. He's looking down, calling to people down on the street. It's 49 stories high. He's calling. He's screaming. Nothing doing. They can't hear him. So he doesn't know what to do. What do you do? How do you get their attention? So he figures, I have a bag full of money here. It's a true story. All the stories in this book of miracles are verified stories. He starts taking money and he starts throwing it. A little bit. He's not throwing gazillion dollars. He's throwing money. People will see there's money falling. You're going to look up. Nobody looks up. Why would you look up? You're looking down. You want to collect the money. You look up, you might miss something to the guy who's more greedy and faster than you. He starts throwing. They're not looking. And he's calling and he's screaming in vain. Nobody hears him. And he's throwing more money. Nothing doing. They don't hear him. And he's throwing, and the sun is beating down, and he actually thinks he's going to die in the sun. He throws the last of the money. There is nothing left, and he gets no attention. Nobody looks up. They're only looking down and collecting the money. And he really is so desperate. He's so desperate, and he starts davening to Hashem for the first time in his life, because before that he was a hero, and everything he did was him. He was responsible for every success. And he's davening to Hashem, please Hashem, hear me, see my plight. Please, I will do anything. Just help me get out of this predicament. I'm going to die here. Please, Hashem. And the first time in his life, he's turning to Hashem. And Hashem hears our prayers. He doesn't always answer, for some reasons. And we'll talk about that maybe in another lecture. All of a sudden, he's looking, exploring, what do I do? And he notices something he didn't notice before. I guess in desperation, you don't always see what's under your nose. and he sees a whole bunch of rubble and rocks. And he starts throwing rocks, and he starts throwing rocks, and he starts throwing rocks. And all of a sudden, people start to pay attention. You see, when things fall on us in life, when money and blessings and beauty and all the things we desire are coming easy and they're falling on us, we're not looking up to see where it's coming. We're collecting like the greedy people on the ground. But when rocks are coming down and people are scared for their life, oh my God, what's going on? Where's this coming? Oh, all of a sudden there's problems. There's problems, and we start looking up. And it's a great lesson to us in life. Do not live by the 98 curses, and that means by ignoring everything Hashem wants. Because you will have the rocks thrown on your head, and then you'll have to look for Him. Why be so dumb and stubborn? Start looking for Him now. What happens? He throws the rocks, he throws the rocks. People are concerned. Now they call the police. No one's calling the police when money is falling on their head. Now they call the police. And the police go up, and he has to tell them the whole story and prove to them I just borrowed money, and they know me in this building because they want to arrest this lunatic. Anyways, his story clears. He goes back home. He made some agreement with God in his moments of desperation. A few days later, he gets a phone call. The guy from Romania. And he's broke now because he doesn't even have the money to pay the taxes. He threw away the investment. He has to pay back the loan sharks. He's in debt up to his neck and over in Romania. Everything's falling like dominoes. He gets the phone call from Romania. And they tell him that they changed the zoning laws in Romania. And the land that he bought is now allowed to be used for construction and for commercial development. Overnight, one phone call, he becomes a gazillionaire. Gazillionaire, more than he ever dreamed that he could be. Because in the moment of desperation, the first time in his life he spoke to God. But not all of us are so lucky that in that moment of desperation. And the question is, why are we waiting for that minute? Why are we waiting for someone to be so sick, and for financial loss, and for all types of disasters, and Corona, and whatever else is, and Corona 1, Corona 2, it feels like a sequel, like I'm watching like some Netflix, like season 1, season 2, it's like COVID season 4 now, I don't know what variant we're in. Why are we waiting for disaster? Why are we waiting for the 98 curses that God gave us? Not that woman who has like a mean face, or the brother-in-law who can't stand it that we made $12. Do not hang around and wait for God's curses to prove that He was right. Or like this person who didn't want to know God and didn't want to do the right thing, and he waited only until disaster struck. And the people on the bottom on the street waited only for the rocks to hit them, for them to look up. When things are good, when you're living your blessing, when you're healthy and you have your financial success and things are going good, look in the mirror and do not tell yourself that you are a superstar. Look in the mirror and say, unlike all these things where they tell you, look in the mirror and say, I am great, I am fabulous, I am beautiful. You know those affirmations. Look in the mirror and say, Hashem, thank you. I am not worthy of anything. You gave me life that was good enough. Everything else is like my mother says, it's a bakshish, it's a tip. Everything else is a tip. You don't deserve it, we don't deserve it. Thank Hashem for everything, for the good, for the bad, for the ugly, for everything. And thank Him, especially when things are good. I know it's hard. When it's bad, we'll talk about that another time. When things are good in your life, look to Hashem and thank Him. And don't say it's all me and I'm all that. Say no, it's all you and you're everything. Ein od milvado. Shabbat shalom.